What's up, everybody? I'm Nikki.
I'm Teisha.
And I'm Arin.
And we're Brownstone.
So and I've got so I'm a therapist, and I work with high school kids and parents. So I've got a meeting with about 300 students tomorrow. But hopefully I don't fall asleep. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I guess we're just waiting for Nikki to join in.
Correct.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I'll be, at least it's good just to be able to before she starts in, just even to hear from you guys. Being that one's in Detroit and one's in Atlanta, how do you guys get to rehearse and stuff like that?
There's this wonderful thing called
the internet. Okay.
And most times I'm leaving from here going to there because the two of them are in Atlanta. However, they've been generous and they've come this way a couple of years, so I have to say thank you.
Okay.
There.
But you know, it's. I mean, okay. So is it Arin? Is that how do I pronounce it?
Arin.
Arin. Okay. I mean, since you joined the newest 2019, I mean, it'd be good to even to hear your story. I mean, how you got into music and stuff.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah. It kind of glitched out a little bit. So I've been in music my entire life and professionally since about 8 years old. And worked with everybody from John Baptiste, who just got all those Grammys this year, to Paul Martin, to Glenn Andrews, Trombone Shorty, all of the New Orleans greats. We all went to jazz camp together and really groomed in that whole entire musical jazz environment, and just been able to maneuver. Had a group with my sister, and we were able to tour all over and sang back up for a lot of people. So, you know, the typical musical journey woman, I guess I would say, you know, where you do backup and you know, try to go out and do your own music also. So we were New Orleans based, and we opened up for Frankie Beverly and Mays and Mary and you know, all those really wonderful people. So when presented the opportunity with Nikki, we have a mutual friend, and so she knows that I'm a singer. And when presented the opportunity to maybe just try and see if this would work, you know, test the waters out and see if we would even gel, if we would get along, if we would gel musically. And it was just the right situation at the right time, and we call it just divine order.
Okay. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you. I said, let me in.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know what has happened. Why I normally would have seen everyone at once. So yeah, I'll just I started with Arin because she's the newest to join. I was going to go with Teisha as well, but and I was just saying that I'm based in England. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and but it's good to be able to get to see you guys as well. Yeah. And I think, Arin, you joined, is it just before COVID? So is it 2019?
So COVID was more like February, March of 2020.
Yeah.
And I was about what?
July 2019, Essence.
Essence was when we performed, but then when I started was more, how long did I have? About a month and a half before then? So maybe like May, June?
Yeah. It actually, because rehearsals before that. So it was literally like we were talking, you know, it was June.
Yeah,
June
about
2018.
Yeah, June. Yep. June.
Okay.
2019. Okay. Before COVID, but then right when we got on the roll, boom, COVID happened. So,
yeah. Okay. It made a difference. Okay. Is it Teisha, right?
That is correct.
Okay, Teisha. Okay. Well, what about your journey and as well?
Well, I've been singing all of my life. So we have this organization within our church denomination, which is the Church of God in Christ. And there's this organization inside of it, and it's called the Sunshine Band. So as young as 4 years old, we're singing in the choir and leading solos. And that's where it all began for me. The legacy, which I hold near and dear to my heart, would have to go back as far as B.B. King, who is grandfather's first cousin.
Wow.
And they were like brothers, then they were cousins in the same household. Granddad, they were in the first quartet together. So if ever you journey to a little town in Mississippi called Indianola, there's a museum and you can see my grandfather throughout the museum.
Wow.
So just from that, it was just in my blood. My dad's sisters sang, my grandfather sang, and I just got a hold of it some kind of way, and it just never let it go. So singing background for people like Vanessa Bell Armstrong, a big gospel great, or the Clark sisters, you know, who you can't mention gospel without mentioning them. And I sang background for Alicia Myers, who's from Detroit. I want to thank you, Heavenly Father. The list just goes on and on. I toured with plays for approximately 20 years. So I've shared the stage with the likes of Billy D. Williams to Tashina Arnold, and sang Open Up My Heart by Yolanda Adams on stage for a production that Nikki co-wrote and co-produced. It's a lot to try and think of right off the but I'm really blessed. I mean, I've done as much as even, you know, took on the character of Diana Ross and sang Stuck in the Name of Love for the Marvin Gaye production. So I've just been blessed. I'm very humbled, you know, by the opportunities that have been presented to me or for me, the favor that has been placed on my life. And then I met my wonderful sister, Nikki, about 20 plus years ago. I've never, ever, ever fanned out. Being on stage with someone like Billy D. Williams, that didn't do it for me. But when Nikki Gilbert Daniels walked into the door and I was reading a script for something that she wrote, she walked in and I fanned out, and we've been like this and walking this journey together ever since. So just a blessing to be here. Yeah.
And then, and I mean, officially you joined, is it what, about 08 or so, or?
Yep, it was 08. Matter of fact, my first show, I had my baby boy sitting on the side of the stage with the pacifier in his mouth. Nikki, that our manager at the time was rocking my baby while I was singing my first Brownstone song in Chicago.
Wow, my
Yes.
goodness.
Yeah.
And he now manages you guys, right?
No, this is a different.
I'm just kidding. No, please.
I get those
it's been a long time. It's been a long.
That's it. That's it.
Oh, goodness.
Long list of manager. No, it hasn't.
Oh, goodness. Wow. And then Nikki, and you know, we got the introduction. So what about you? Were you born and raised?
I am born and raised in Detroit, the Motor City, Motown. I'm literally a Motown baby. My dad wrote If I Were Your Woman for Gladys Knight. He did the Temptations Christmas album. Motown is in my blood, literally in my DNA. My mom and my dad met as two young musicians who fell in love. My mother's a jazz singer.
Wow.
And my dad was a writer, producer, P. Diddy-ish, because, I got siblings, Papa wasn't, no, I'm saying. But my dad was an amazing composer and songwriter and engineer. Norman Whitfield is my godfather. And I actually, Robin Terry, who now is the CEO of the Motown Museum, is my college roommate and one of my closest friends. So Motown through and through, Detroit through and through. Everything I do has Detroit sprinkled in it, not to go back to the past, but Keena was from Detroit and she was on album 2. Teisha's from Detroit. She is from here on out. You know what I'm saying? So album 3 and the future. So I hold that near and dear to my heart.
Wow.
Motor City.
Yeah, goodness. I mean, I when I interviewed Donnie Simpson a couple of months ago, and he was talking about, I found out every second he was telling his stories, but just understanding how, those living and grown up in Detroit, you could see all these
Yeah.
guys all the time, and it wasn't a big deal because they were that accessible and stuff. But we
Yeah.
also heard, I think Elder Barger was also telling me about the
Yeah.
darker side of Detroit where it started getting a little bit rough and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like any city, any city, look at LA today, Lord Jesus, the holy grail of like the places everybody wanted to move to. So I think all cities have an ebb and flow sort of space where there's times when it's really, really good and times when it's not so great. But right now, the city of Detroit, when I tell you that moment that they've been telling everybody, you wait, Detroit's going to come back. Detroit is in the middle of a renaissance that is going to blow minds everywhere. It is a totally different city. It's like Brownstone. At the core, it's the same, but it's rebranded, renewed, refreshed.
Okay. Now, I actually wanted to find out about the name because I didn't realize until I was watching a CBS show called Sherlock that Brownstone actually was the name of a house, and it's like, what? I thought it was the name of the group.
They don't have brownstones in London, in the UK.
Well, no. Yeah, we don't have anything called Brownstone. So I had no idea. It just took me by surprise when Sherlock was like, "Yeah, I'm living in the Brownstone." I was like, Brownstone. So exactly does the meaning behind the name? Or I just assumed it was just like any name, but it.
Yeah, I mean, the irony of it is I remember the day we were sitting around in Maxee's studio apartment at the table, and we were thinking of titles for names. And Brownstone has always been a group that was built on a foundation of longevity. Classic, well-built, structures are the literal name for Brownstone, right? But it's what was so beautiful about it is it represented this thing that on the outside, on the exterior, it looked pretty basic and pretty normal and regular. But when you opened it up and you went inside, you realized that there were levels and octaves and ranges and the creative spaces. And it was created in one of the most creative cities in America. And you associate Harlem with brownstones for the most part, or we did. And then there was a book Mimi read called Brown Girls, Brownstones that she actually told Maxee and I about, and it was just about overcoming adversity. And that's, I remember we were like, Brownstone, that's us, strong like stone, earthy color brown, may look very normal on the outside, but when you get into us, we're built to last. So that was it. Rock solid.
Okay. I mean, I went to college in Alabama in the 90s, but as I said, because I came from England, went to the States, had no idea that the name came from there.
This is a house. The foundations are solid. That's it.
So, from the bottom up comes out in 94.
Yeah.
Ani, did you remember the album when the album came out? And what did you think?
Yeah. I'm a person, and I've learned this recently about myself. I have to watch how driven I am sometimes. I didn't really have an appreciation for what we created because I was just like, okay, what's next? All right, we did the records. Okay, what do we do now? You know what I'm saying? So as it started to rise on the charts, which is why now I'm really fully embracing this moment. I had a lot of anxiety because we were signing Michael Jackson's label. So for me, it was just like, look, we're going to do this work or they're going to take our record deal back. You know what I'm saying? Like this is what we got to do in my 23-year-old mind, so I don't really remember. No, here's a moment. It's funny. I was talking to Vivian Scott Chu recently, and here's a moment that really stands out. Our first single was actually a song called Past 11. If You Love Me, we performed at, they used to do these they were like industry mixers, Jack the Rappers, like conferences, right? Where they would bring all the artists together and you would sing like the best of your music and you represent the label, kind of a marketing thing, right? And I remember our first single had been released. It was called Past 11 and it was put on a mixtape. And I remember driving down Sunset, and we were on Sunset and let me tell you exactly where. Fairfax. No. Sunset and Highland. I'm tripping. Driving past the high school, and in the mix you could faintly hear "Past Some Love." Me and Maxee started screaming at the top of our lungs. We stopped her little Jetta. We got out the car. We're dancing around. We're like, "Oh my God, that's us! That's us!" right? And then we're so excited about that. We're calling our family. Our family's like, yeah, right, whatever. And then we went and performed at one of those conferences and we did If You Love Me. And I just remember we got like a 3 or 4 minute standing ovation after doing the song. And they're like, change of plans. That's the record. So I was a little disappointed because I was geeked up about rapping and being the little, Queen Latifah. I had a little rhyme in it and everything. But then when they, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I mean, vocally, in the 90s we had SWV, we had Vogue, we had Escape, and I think from the bottom up really put Brownstone as proper powerful vocal group. Now for Teisha and Arnie, what was your impression about the album, being from the outside, seeing what was happening in the 90s, especially when they came out with, say, If You Love Me, Grapevine?
Yeah, because Arin was a toddler and Teisha was.
Oh goodness! Okay, goodness. We're showing our age now.
Okay, first of all,
no, Arin was a baby. No,
Teisha was a toddler. But Tory Lanez literally was a toddler. But that's another conversation.
But this is why we say, why we use the phrase divine order all the time. I was known in high school as like the girl with the big voice. Like I did all the singing in high school. So it was nothing for them to liken me to the vocals of Nicki. Like they will always say, you got that big wide mouth like that girl. And I never, and I believe that's why, really, honestly, that's why I fanned completely out, when I'm time, because I'm like, everyone would always say, you sing powerful, wide mouth like the girl from Brownstone, right? For it to be connected and then for it to come full circle and for me to be here, I think that's what really connected me to the album. And then the songs are just hits. Like, you can't listen to If You Love Me and not feel something. Like they were real powerful big singers, and we say that still now to this day. Like we sing real songs, we sing with real vocals. We're not giving you just some stuff in the studio. No, this is what we do. We open our mouths and we sing.
It ain't always pretty, but it's real.
Oh, good. I didn't realize you said so. So this album passed you by, or
who, me?
Arin.
Arin.
Say it again.
No, I was just saying. So when the album came out in '94, it was before your time.
No, they were being so silly.
Okay, kind of scared. I was like, what? Okay.
I'm the youngest of this group, and so they never let me forget that I'm the youngest in this group. Okay, so that's the constant joke. You may hear it 5 more times.
Okay.
Arin, you're probably in diapers, which I'm but I am. Listen, I'm. It's terrible to say and great to say at the same time, but when you're still a fan of the person that you work with. Because Teisha understands, there's an element not a fan, but just an appreciation. Nicki set the trends.
Right.
My group at that time, we would have my own. We had a girl group. I had a girl group with me and my cousins. We are a singing family. And if you weren't dressed like Brownstone, what were you doing?
Right.
You weren't dressed like Brownstone. My sister, to this day, cut her hair super, super short because Nicki set that trend. And so it was the music, it was them, it was their authenticity that just, I think, resonated with everyone. And to be a part of this brand and knowing that that's the torch that we carry, I feel honored. I know Teisha, we have these conversations often that we both feel honored to be in this place. We know we're supposed to be in this place because of our talent and all the things that have led us up to this moment, but we also still feel honored to carry on because there was no group in the 90s and all of those groups are wonderful, En Vogue, SWV, and Escape, but there was something about Brownstone. Maybe it was the connection to Michael Jackson, maybe it was just the worldwide kind of phenom that they were in the 90s that made you really relate to them or made it aspirational. And so being in the 90s, I mean, it was Brownstone. I still have my combat boots.
But we have something that we call Nikki, and she hates it. We'll count of 3, Arin. 1, 2, 3. Living legend.
Okay.
And I got braids today, and I got the gray that is in my hair in my braids. So I've been around.
No. But I'm gonna ask Arin first. What was your favorite track on that album to listen to, and then what's your favorite to perform now?
So it's funny, and it's probably not that. But my favorite song has always been, I can't tell you why. Always. And 5 Miles to Empty. Those are like my 2 favorites. So I called somebody, I think the first time, I was like, this is a surreal moment to be able to perform these songs that I've loved for so long with people that I love, with Nikki, and honoring Maxee, who passed away in 2015. It's absolutely my favorite 2 to perform. 5 Miles to Empty, because I just kind of remember the video, and you remember like exactly where you were and what man you was telling off or boy you were telling off at that time.
Okay.
So I know their name. I'm not gonna put them on blast all the way to you.
Okay.
But the whole vibe. So those 2 are my absolute favorite. I mean, If You Love Me, we can't even sing. Let's be clear. We don't even get past the first sentence.
Yeah. The audience sings.
So I would love to connect with If You Love Me, like singing. By the time ooh yeah comes in, it's over. It's over. Everybody else is singing that for us.
Wow.
So, which is a blessing. But yeah, definitely 5 Miles to Empty. I can't tell you why, and it's funny the connection that would even have, full circle with those 2.
Yeah. Teisha, what about yourself?
Well, mine for sure would be If You Love Me. And that's definitely because, I mean, it's just Brownstone. Everything about it radiates Brownstone. Like, you cannot, I don't know, here's a true story, funny story, just happened today, because I work full time. So I'm walking through, passing out orders to my team, and they got the radio going, and guess what's on the radio? If You Love Me.
That's crazy.
I love it. And I gave them a concert at work today. So they were trying to find
love it.
By the time I'm back to my office. So
boy, they gonna miss you when we got to take this UK trip.
Oh goodness. Then Nikki, what about you? What's your favorite?
Oh, come on now. Stop it. You cannot ask a mom to pick a favorite child. Oh, you can't do that. But I will say this. Sometimes dancing has just always been one of my favorite songs. And it's interesting because I realized based on the numbers online that we need to probably incorporate it into the show, but it's just so hard. And, and it's because I think it, really represents Brownstone as a global brand, right? People don't know Maxee was Guyanese, South American, which is what really, I think, carried us into, and of course, the fact that we were signed to Michael Jackson didn't hurt at all when we talk about Europe and some of those places. But I think that song just really, for me as a creative coming from Detroit and being so into soul music and pop music, to have a record on our album that really was just straight away like her vibe, Caribbean soul. You said what, baby?
You said her term, straight away.
You know what I'm saying? Right, straight away, exactly. It was just so that's my favorite. If there was a favorite song, it would be Sometimes Dancing. And the fact that it is the song that her, son's father produced, and her son Nikolai, who is one of the most amazing human beings on the planet, might not have even been conceived if it wasn't for that record. So it's a special connection to that record for me.
Well, okay. And
they fell in love, and Nikolai was born.
I'm surprised no one picked Half of You. That's my favorite on the album.
It's really interesting. Okay, let me tell you the Half of You story. So in terms of the memory of that's why I said you can't. And see what I'm saying. Why would you do this? Why? There you go. In terms of the record that I remember most, it is Half of You, because it was the last song and we did it in one take, and we were in complete sync. And Gordon Chambers is a genius. Yeah. So yeah, I would say Half of You is definitely a very close second.
See, now if Adele sang it, it would have won, a record of the year, the Grammys. It would have, and so I'm listening to that track. Even today, I listen to it and I'm like, wow, this is the kind of song that if Adele sang, it would be record of the year, album of the year, song of the year. But when you guys, but it just shows, unfortunately, the discrimination within the industry, because to me, that I listened to that and I was like, wow, this was such, maybe that's probably why it's my favorite, because it just felt really authentic, felt real. It felt like I was sitting in church and listening to somebody giving a sermon or singing. And so it's a pity that it didn't get released, but I don't know if the markets were ready for that type of song at that point in time.
Yeah, the beautiful thing is that records like that, it was interesting. I was looking at something on Spotify and I was noticing how people were discovering new records. And I was talking to one of our sorors and she was like, I didn't know that you guys. So I think the beautiful thing about where we're headed in the industry now, and you're absolutely right. I agree. Obviously, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Yeah. If we look like Adele, we would definitely sell like Adele. But I think it's great that people can go and reintroduce themselves and get reacquainted with that music. And there are always re-releases, because I said Beyonce got 37 singles on the radio right now.
Please.
Yeah, Teisha, I thought you were going to come in about that, or was there anything that you...
No, I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, I'm big on this RE right now, so a release would be great, a re-release. Right? Yeah, it's something to think about. That's only if we can get Nikki to do it the way.
No, listen, let me say this. And since they put me on blast, let me say this. These two women are literally the wind beneath my wings on this Brownstone thing. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because my makeup is cute and I'm not trying to turn it into a whole moment. But it is so, Teisha, we always, Teisha is choir boy in the 5 Heartbeats. Teisha is the person who is going to connect with you spiritually and be like, this is what you want to do. This is what God has ordained for us. And this is what we're going to do. And she's from Detroit, so her going to do is very Detroit style going to do. Really? And Arin, we always say Maxee chose. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of the interview. But yeah, anyway, they're amazing.
Goodness. Yeah, no, as I said, it's, and I think, because when I listened to All I Want Is You, I couldn't tell who's singing. Normally you can say, okay, I can hear Nikki, especially when Brownstone, but when this came out, now that's why I can't wait to see the video, because then I can see who's singing what part and stuff like that. So that would be, because as I said, it's important that we, my audience is generally in their 40s. And so they were much heavily influenced by the 90s. So each day when we look at some of the songs, we celebrate from 91 all the way to 2005, all the songs. And one of the things we always recognize is that the songs we listened to and celebrated, they had singers, not the auto-tune kind of stuff. And Brownstone was always known as the harmonies, the vocals, the power, but also it can bring it down softly. And then when it comes to your second album, the second album that came out, it had a beautiful vibe. But I was a big fan of the music industry, and I noticed that there was a lot of shifting, lots of mergers between labels, and there was a big shift towards hip hop, and certain songs and albums weren't getting the love and respect that it did. I mean, Nikki, from the inside, what was your thought? I mean, you've come up with a Platinum Plus debut album, and now here's a sophomore album. What was your thoughts about How it?
I definitely started to feel the shift. There was something we used to call the sophomore jitters or the sophomore jinx, where, artists were really working to meet the first album, which is, futile, because the first time you hear a record like If You Love Me, you can never do that again, right? So I did see that there was sort of this shift. And then, we started to evolve as well. So I won't put it all on, the record company, because, the beautiful thing about being signed to MJJ, and shout out to Jerry Greenberg, who was just a phenomenal, incredible human being to us. Jerry was one of the good guys, is one of the good guys in the industry. Let's keep him lifted in prayer. He's just getting over a heart attack. And he and I spoke a couple of days ago, because of course I had to share the single with him. But Jerry really instilled a lot of knowledge in us. And the label was committed. I think what started to happen is, after the first album, Mimi left. She made the decision to leave actually before the album. We were in the UK and she was like, okay, this is it for me. I'm wrapping it up. So we were able to plan and kind of, we did a whole thing on BET where we swapped out members, and Keena came, which was amazing. Donnie Simpson, you talked about him earlier. So there was a beautiful moment there where Mimi passed the baton, and she went on to become an educator. That's great. So there was that moment that kind of shifted some things within the group. And then Maxee, honestly, if we're totally transparent, started to want to do more in the space of her music, her vibe, pop stuff. So she had made the decision, which was crazy, on the second album, like, hey, we'd actually just done a performance for Kiss and Tell on the Keenan Ivory Wayans show, and she had told us before that performance, and that was the last performance that we had done. And Keena and I were just kind of there, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to find another person, so it was just kind of over. I was, a lot of people assumed that I ran off to do a solo career. Absolutely, I was getting offers from the label, to do a solo album. It's just not something I've ever really wanted to do. I've always enjoyed music as a group and harmonies. So, the long and the short of that is it wasn't just the label. I mean, obviously, when group members start dropping off and you don't know if you're going to get that same magic, the budgets shrink up a little bit. But it was also some onus and responsibility on the group, and we were going through a shift. And Mimi made the decision to leave after album 1. Maxee made the decision to leave after album 2, and I chose to wait for Arin and Teisha for album 3.
Okay. No, I mean, it's good to be able to get that out there. And I guess the thing, whenever it's funny, because I think of Brownstone, I'm one of the biggest Michael Jackson fans out there, but I don't think of Michael Jackson when I think of Brownstone. So it's to your credit that unlike 3T, we think, oh yeah, that's Michael's nephews on his label. I keep forgetting that you guys were, his first.
The first group signed to Michael Jackson's label.
To his label. Then, yourself, Men of Vision, because I've spoken to them. Yeah. So, but as I said, I always forget that. So that's
Tatiana Ali.
Okay. Yeah. I did. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You see,
was Terrell one of his, or no?
Terrell Higgs?
Yeah. No.
No, she was at Motown.
Yeah, I think she was at Motown. It was 3T, Quo, Tatiana Ali, and Men of Vision.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
In Brownstone.
But that's what I'm saying, that you guys stood out, that it wasn't, this is Michael's kind of group. But what was it like actually? Did you have to audition for him, or did he just not?
So what we did, we can never we can never disclose those intimate details of our relationship with Michael. No, we didn't have that kind of relationship. What we did do was we had an audition in a dark room with a bunch of very important people. So after we met Linda, shout out to Linda Blum and Marla McNally, who are the owners of Emerald Forest Publishing, who we met first before we met Jerry. And there was a whole stranded in the desert story I'm not gonna get into because it's long-winded, but to make up for getting me stranded in the desert, they set up a meeting with this guy, Barry Kolsky. We went up and we performed some songs that we had written and rehearsed for Barry. Barry was like, thanks, but no thanks, was sending us on our way. And downstairs, the two women who owned the publishing company were like, what was that? Who are y'all? What was that? And, me and my Detroit 22-year-old self, that was us. I wrote these songs, and hold on, y'all ready? Come on, let's sing. And we sung, and they were blown away. And then they said, can you come back next week? And they came back and they said, we want to introduce you to somebody, but, you know, we want to talk to you about publishing. So, you know, they became our publishers and they introduced us to Jerry. We went in, I'll never forget the day we went into Jerry's office at Epic in Sony in LA. And we had our overalls on and our combat boots. And, you know, she's like, look, when you go in here, just sing for Jerry. And then, you know, let him do the talking. So we're like, cool. So we went there, we sang, and I'll never forget, he was sitting there with his hand in his face in his hand. And he was like, oh my. And I said, I'm not going to say it here, but he said, oh my freaking, he was like, amazing. He was like, you're amazing. We're like, okay, well, what does that mean? Do we got a deal? And we sat and talked to him for a minute. And then they said, we want you to come back and you have to do another audition. And this is big. And we're not going to tell you who's going to be in the room. So we went back to the office. It was a dark conference room. They lit us with a projector so we couldn't see nothing. And they said, sing and leave. We sang and we left. And probably a week and a half later, they called and was like, Michael loves y'all. You have a deal with Michael Jackson. And we could not believe it. And neither did anybody else. Right. Yeah, it was bad. So, and, you know, I've been to the house in Encino. We went to, you know, a Thanksgiving thing. We were invited to Neverland, but the only interaction, the beautiful thing about being signed to MJJ and being singer-songwriters is that we sang records that we wrote, and our publishers were like, y'all gonna write everything. So we literally wrote, you know, the records, and they allowed us to be creative and do what we wanted to do. And they would send back notes from his team and notes from Jerry. But I remember one moment we had where we were at, and they took a picture of the moment, actually. It was Michael, Lisa Marie, a bunch of executives from Sony, Jerry, and Brownstone. And, you know, we were taking the pictures. It was one of those conferences I mentioned. And I remember, you know, saying, he was like, I'm really proud of you guys. You're amazing. And I was just like, yeah, I was nervous. He's like, don't be nervous. I signed you because you were amazing. Be great. Never forget that. So I'm like, man, Michael Jackson told me I was great, gave me a record deal. I don't really have nothing to prove to nobody else.
Yeah.
Brownstone, sorry.
You know, the thing you mentioned that kind of skipped off, and I think this is something that one of the things that we're trying to help other up and coming artists is you spoke about being signed to publishing. Did you guys know about, and I think to your credit, you guys wrote your songs, which on your contemporaries, most of them weren't doing that. It was a heavily producer, songwriter led sort of industry where somebody would do the software and you just sing. But did you guys know and get educated about, okay, this is what publishing means, so you know your points, so that you don't get surprised when you get a platinum album and the money isn't trickling in?
Well, you know, it's always gonna be the surprise, right? And we're like, I think last time I checked, we're 3 million now, but close to 3 billion. Yes and no, right? Yes, in that, like everyone will tell you, when you say I was a kid when I signed the contract, they're like, but it was in the contract and you signed it. So technically, they're telling you, when they give you a 60, 70, 100-page agreement, this is what you're doing. You're a kid coming from, you know, most cases, you know, the neighborhood, you know, you're in underserved communities. You have a shot with, I mean, come on. Somebody puts a deal with Michael Jackson in the face of a 23 or 24-year-old. You need my firstborn in how many days? I mean, you know, so, you know, yeah. So they did tell us, in all fairness, you know, absolutely. What I wish had happened is I wish that, and my dad tried to tell me, my dad tried to warn me. He's like, you got, these people have been referred your lawyer, they didn't refer your accountant, they didn't refer, you know what I mean? And that was just industry-wide practice. It wasn't something that was just exclusive to Brownstone. It was industry-wide practice. And I've learned to soften my approach, because the people who are here in the industry now working to make changes are not the people who made the rules in the 90s. And I will say, you know, thankfully that Sony is putting forth some effort. I want some more effort, Sony, I do. But they are putting forth a lot of effort to try to level the playing field. So to answer your question, yes, you don't sign something and put your name on it without pretending like you know what you're signing. But I think we all know at 23, 24 years old, you pretending like you know. And even no matter what it says, what you gonna do? Because the next person is in line ready to sign that deal.
Yeah. And so that's the things that we're listening to and hearing. But the fact that you did write your own stuff. Now, I was surprised that you because I expected then to see All I Want Is You to be written by you guys, but what was the difference? Why you guys aren't the writers of this one, or was it just because, okay, it was too good of a song to, we'll just take it as our sort of coming out party? Or
two things can be true, right, y'all? First, yeah, we didn't even know, to be totally honest with you, our producer Mark, well, tell them how it came up. Somebody, y'all know how it happened. Was
I have been begging for us to work with Marcus, the Heat Miser, DAHEAT. Yes. For years, for quite some time. He's a quote unquote brother to Nikki and I, and now he's adopted Arin. And he's just a really phenomenal producer. He's from Detroit, and we wanted to kind of, in the RE again, rebrand ourselves with someone who was, I want to say, connected to what's happening right now, right? Not that we can't write, because the three of us are creatives. So it's not that we can't write, but we know that he knows the sound for the right now moment. And so we trust him enough to give us a sound that would be a rebranding or revitalizing of Brownstone, still tapping into who we are, not losing, who we are, definitely the foundation of Brownstone, but kind of capitalizing on that for what's going on in the industry right now. You still, we're hearing people say that R&B is dead, R&B is dead, R&B is dead. No, it is not. And we're here to prove that it is not. So the reason we kind of went with Marcus, doing the whole package because we trusted him enough to give us what we needed to come out again. But please believe the pen will be on the paper when you hear the next song or all of the next songs to follow. So that's kind of the reason why we chose him. And it's been a long time coming. Marcus Divine has done so much stuff for Nikki with a lot of her productions back in the day. He produced some really amazing songs, and we just trusted his ear. We trusted his sound. We trusted how he produces. And, here he is right now on his way out on the Millennium Tour. He's producing his 15 acts on the tour. He's doing 6 of them. So, the guy knows what he's doing. As you can see, the numbers are constantly going up, right?
Yeah. Was there ever a temptation to go back to say Dave Hall or Gordon Chambers and say, hey, come on, let's rediscover that magic from the bottom up?
Yeah. Before we answer that question, can I put my church finger up?
Go ahead.
So, Arin has something really important that she has to do. Teisha and I are more than willing to stay on, but if you have any more questions of Arin, you want to get those. I hate that. I'm sorry, but yeah, she had something pre-scheduled that was
family emergency medical action.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, but for Arin, just from from what you for the fans who are going to probably get to see and hear you for the first time, what is it that you would want to tell them to look out for?
I think, first of all, Brownstone fans are really great at feedback. They're not short of any feedback at all. Okay, let's be clear. And so it took me a while. It took me a while, and it took them a while to not to realize that I wasn't replacing Maxee, but that I was bringing my own authentic self to the group. And once they realized that, and I said it's like the last year and a half, it's been welcome with open arms. And so my sound is, Nikki and Teisha sometimes say it's similar. It's lighter, vibrato, kind of more that kind of style, and sultry is what probably the word I would use. Sultry. That's the word that that's the feedback that I've gotten, which is fine, which is wonderful actually. But I would just expect them to know that my goal is to maintain the brand, the legacy, the songs, the catalog, all of those things. I'm not coming in to like, switch things around, but I am coming to bring my own self, insert my own self, my own style, and everything that I have into the group to make it special for this version of the group.
Yeah.
This is different, but in different, it doesn't mean that it's quality isn't the best or quality goes down. It just means that it's different, and the quality remains because we are all very much focused on the highest quality, which goes back to Teach, is why we said we use Marcus Divine for everything. We heard it, it was wonderful. Okay, let's record it. Recorded it in one day. Wow. Because it was just like that kind of chemistry with the song, and which rarely happens. And then now it's charting on. Now we're number one. We were number one in the UK a few minutes ago, I think.
On Amazon, we were like, oh wow, that's crazy. You're like really like downloading this song. Thanks.
So it's all proven that, what the vision that we had, the vision that Nikki had, the vision that Teisha had, that vision that I had to really put our efforts in here and do this and rebrand, refresh, be new again. It's working, and it's working in a major way. We can't dictate who likes the song. We just put it out there, or even like Brownstone, the new version of it, but people will tell you if they do. And the success of this single allows us to see that people are saying, yes, we love this. And actually that's the feedback.
And you don't know who's singing what, but Arin is actually leading this track. Arin, and then Teisha, and then I come in a little bit here and there. Okay. But yeah, Arin, Teisha, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We've had a lot of time not a lot of time, but we've had a decent amount of time to spend creatively and really late into our sound together. So
yeah, okay. Well, I don't know if you have to leave. I mean, it's fine, because hopefully we do get the video so that we can start to see.
You are,
because that does make the
massive. You definitely look at the video.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. And Teisha and Nikki, I'm an actual workhorse. I just really enjoy working. So if it wasn't a family situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are praying for you, and we know this is gonna be amazing and awesome tomorrow. So give our love to everybody.
Yes,
love.
We love you.
And you guys you're in good hands.
We got you. Okay, so let us tell you how we really feel about Arin now that she's gone. Okay.
That's right. Okay, Sierra.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
so your Dave Hall question.
Yeah, Dave Hall, Golden Chambers, yeah.
So adding on to what Teisha was saying, yeah, absolutely. And another thing, it is no secret, I say all the time, the industry has changed a lot, right? So we went from a place of, like Grapevine was almost damn near 6-minute song, right? It was just, songs were much longer, much more wordy. We read more, there were newspapers, there were albums, we read liner notes. Now we're in an industry where connoisseurs do that, but the average person just wants it quick. You know what I mean? It's TikToks and, things have to go viral. So I know that is not the space in which I live. I'm a whole R&B girl all the way. Like, you know what I'm saying? R&B, a little rock, edgy, whatever. And when Marcus said, I've lived this music, I'm breathing this music, I'm paying attention to what's going on, I'm telling you this thing is the record. Don't worry about, well, send it to, let's hear it. Nope. You'll hear it when you get to the studio. And when we went into the studio, it was like, ooh-wee. And then we didn't pick the order of who sang what. He was like, this is how we're going to do this. And he also, it's important to note, programs our live show. We worked with him for the first time as our MD in Detroit at the Aretha Franklin Arena, and hands down was one of the best live shows we've had, because he is just a guy who understands, like your Dave Halls and your Darren Whittingtons and Gordon Chambers. They're musicians and producers, right? Brownstone has always had the blessing of having producers that are also very talented musicians and understand music, right? And you'll see we did, we're documenting the journey as we go along. And one of the conversations that Marcus and the group had was, for me, it was, wow, Brownstone fans are going to really be surprised because we're not giving you these big, there's not all these big vocal moments, but I complain about those moments live because I'm singing at 52 in my 23-year-old voice. So it is refreshing to just vibe. And what's interesting is that is where Maxee wanted us to go in terms of direction as a group. You know, she's like, and if you think about her voice and the music even that she was pursuing in her solo career, it was much more of a vibe. It was much more of a bop. It was, you know, and we're gonna have those moments because let me tell you, if you think this one got a big mouth and a throat on her, that one this one over on the other side right here, they don't even, we had to warm people up a little bit before we unleashed the dragon, right? So, and you're gonna get that. We're gonna give a body of work. So to answer the question, I know I went all around the mobile. But to answer the question, we are. Dave and I are in conversation about records. I'm like, Dave, you got a record? Gordon Chambers and I just talked last week. Like, you know, we are definitely creating a body of work.
You pulled Gordon up on stage in New York.
I sure did. Exactly. Okay. Gordon performed with us in New York. Exactly. So it's just, you know, and we're going back to this whole like, don't rush mentality. Like that is the Beyonce of us all. Shout out to Beyonce, who I actually remember us motivating them before one of their first shows in LA in the back of Prince's Club. It's crazy. But we're going to do a body of work and that takes time. And we're going to, you know, I know people are used to EPs and short records and whatever. We're going to give y'all a little something to make you pay attention. And then we're going to hit you with the wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, on this here record we finna do.
Okay. Are we going to, I mean, Teisha, are we expecting a full album? Or what? Because I don't. It's hard for us now, as I said, the consumers who, you know, the way we consume music is very different. But what should we expect from Brownstone?
I think we're gonna, you know, our thoughts are to hit you with about a good 3 or 4 hot singles, so an EP, right? And then from there, we'll just add, as she keeps saying, a body of work, we'll add. And, you know, it may turn into a full album, it may not. But no, like, and we're not comparing ourselves to, you know, who's out there now, but you just have to pay attention to what's going on. You don't get too many people doing a full album like that, you know, like earlier, Beyonce has how many singles on the radio?
Right.
You know, you have people who will do a full album, but for the most part, let's be honest, you know, everything is so, people don't want to sit down and listen to a full album like that. They want to listen to 1 or 2, 3 songs and they're done with it. And then they're on to the next artist. Yeah. So that's,
and over the course of a year, you might get 10 records.
And over the course of the year, you right. But right now, to drop a whole album, that's not necessarily our vision. But we do want to keep hitting you with something. We're going to keep building and building and building. And you look up and say, oh my God, they got an album and it's crazy. Yes.
But the other question I always ask, I guess, who are releasing new stuff is are you looking for the singles to pay the bills? Or is it more like, okay, this is a way of saying, hey, we're still here. It's charting, which is great. But it you know, it's not like back in the day where we needed to go platinum for us to be able to support it.
Yeah, no, I was having this conversation with my husband, and it takes, from what I understand, like 75 spins to get like half a penny. So we might be about $10 right now. But I think if that. But what I do believe, again, is, you know, the opportunities that come as a result of putting out good work. You know, I know that we will be in the UK touring. I know that we will have the opportunity, you know, to share and brand and cross promote some of the other amazing things that we're all working on, right? You know, everybody has an amazing project. And I think it's just about visibility, right? Once you get into the visibility space of it, your consumers can kind of meet you where you are. It's so much SVOD and, you know, subscription on demand. So it's kind of like appointment TV. You don't want that anymore. It's just, you know, we want to just put out great records, and hopefully that raises our visibility and creates more opportunities.
Okay. The Alex asked something about, when did Brownstone record a song called Revenge?
That was Maxee. So when we talk about, and so let me say this. So we have been pondering sort of a greatest hits and unreleased sort of record moment, you know. Maxee did Revenge as a part of her finding herself and finding her voice, right? And Sony put the record out, you know, just because it was something that happened during the exploration period. So anything you record is just like, let's get that, let's get that. And so the stuff that we didn't really put on the album was still the property of the label. Okay. So those were like those filler records that didn't make. I think I'm Not Her and a couple other records that just came up. So, but Revenge was legitimately a record that Maxee wanted. I think she wanted it on the second album, and it didn't make the second album, or it didn't happen in time. The album was already serviced. So I think she recorded it shortly after. But a great record.
Okay. Now the other thing, now as I said, in England is quite different. So half of the people on Halfton Chat, they are based in the States, and so they kept saying, "Oh, Nikki, R&B Divas," and I was like, "What is that?" Because we didn't get to see it here.
Thank God! No wonder the record's doing so well.
So can you explain?
Watch it.
Yeah, no, because we don't get to see. I mean, even BT doesn't show it in the UK anymore. Yeah. But how did that come about, Nikki? How did R&B Divas Atlanta come about?
You know, no, I'm joking. R&B Divas Atlanta, I always say, was one of the biggest learning experiences of my life. It was a series. So in addition to being, you know, a singer, just like we said, all around creative and opportunities to brand other things and, you know, generate revenue and build properties. And that was what that was for me. It was a series that I created. I reached out to actually Soul Kittens Cabaret, which was a musical stage play that Teisha was a part of, and Selena Johnson and Monifa and Faith, and, you know, a lot of Angie Stone, a lot of those women were a part of, happened. And I remember us filming the behind the scenes, like Teisha, that's crazy, right? We were doing our own sort of documentary of Soul Kittens Cabaret.
Back then,
right? All the way back then, before R&B Divas.
Absolutely.
So I was like, you know what? I saw the Housewives and I was like, there's a space for artists who are, you know, working to get back on top, to share their stories and their journeys authentically. So I started documenting, and I reached out to the ladies and I was like, hey, and Teisha was originally supposed to be a part of it, but, you know, it turned into one of those, well, what are you doing outside? Long story short, they wanted people who were established in the 90s. Teisha's a baby. And I reached out to Faith and I said, hey girl, I have this amazing idea. I have a bunch of really dope people on board. We need an anchor. And Faith is one of my real friends in the industry. We've been friends since before her career jumped off, when she was singing background at Showtime at the Apollo, I think, for Christopher, maybe. Was it Christopher? Anyway. So put this thing together, and it was hugely successful for a network in the States called TV One. Okay. But unfortunately, I wasn't aware of the importance of owning the content. And it started to derail and become a stereotypical sort of, you know, animosity and tension and stress for these women, because we weren't in control of the narrative, right? Mm-hmm. We couldn't say, hey, we're not going to do this. We could, but, you know, you say that, and again, like the contracts in the 90s, there's always somebody waiting in the wings, right? Mm-hmm. So I left the show, and it wasn't on good terms at all. I left the show because I felt like it had changed directions. I didn't want to be a part of the negative press or the negative energy. I got off early after the second season. I only did the second season because the network asked me, you know, Nikki, please, we really need you to do this. I think the show was a brilliant first season. I think it was awesome. And I think it really, to this day, helped relaunch some careers. So I don't regret any of it. But I think the lesson in that is that you have to have ownership. You have to have the ability to say, no, we're not going to do that, because that is not who we are. And because I did not have that, I think that is the reason the show is no longer here. But, you know, it helped a lot of careers.
And the other question Phil asked was, are you still friends with any Monifa?
So Kiki is my sister.
Oh, Kiki, okay.
She, thank God, reposted without even having to ask her. Faith, of course, I don't have an issue with any of the women.
Okay.
Monifa and I go back to long before R&B Divas. In fact, Teisha and Monifa are, we all kind of started this whole thing, right? The R&B Divas thing started with Teisha, Monifa, Dee and Sokins and R&B Divas. So we all kind of so yeah, we're cool. We're good. I think that there are still some moments of healing that can take place, but we're all focused on work and moving forward in a positive direction.
Yeah. As I said, unfortunately, we didn't get to see it here, but
that's not unfortunate.
It's not unfortunate.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's but I think that's the one thing that you have said, and we started about the writing part and that sense of ownership and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that you on your Instagram sort of Brownstone official, the shows that you're sort of documenting, doing a sort of documentary of your comeback. Is this a way of saying, okay, we're going to be doing stuff our way and having our control, and we don't need networks? We can actually, there are avenues to sort of put our content out and control.
Yeah, I mean, which is why it's so important when we look, we're completely independent. This is really literally us saying, okay, we got to take and reinvest pretty much every dollar. You know what I'm saying? So to see the impact of something that most people will be like, okay, well, it's not the Billboard charts. You're just number one on the R&B charts in UK. That is huge for us. And being number 24 in the company of Lil Nas X and Bruce Springsteen and the Spice Girls and Shania Twain on the mainstream charts is huge for us. So absolutely, that is what the statement is. It is a statement to our ability to be a Black woman-owned enterprise independently, and know that because we have taken care of our brand and we haven't been out here doing crazy stuff all the way like that, people still can appreciate it and support us. It means the world to us. It means that it's possible for the future to take control of your independent art and not have it convoluted or diluted by a big machine. Mm-hmm. Although we're interested in a big machine, partner, not a boss and not an owner, but a partner and maybe co.
Yeah. Teisha, what about these? What can if fans expect when they see a Brownstone show? I did see when you guys were with Jade. Was it just before Christmas or so?
Yeah.
But what can we expect if when we do see Brownstone on the billing and it's like, okay, we're gonna show up? What kind of show can we expect?
A show. A real
where the mics are on.
The mics are on. We're singing real. So, we always say if you hear a note that cracks, that's because we're singing for real. Wow. We have towels behind us because we sweat heavily. We have to keep water on stage so that we can stay hydrated. But we're big energy. If I have to piggyback something that Nikki said a few minutes ago when he was talking about our producer of this single, Marcus Divine. Well, he knows, the energy, that we bring, but his band members were unaware. So our first rehearsal, and it was just rehearsal. It was the first day, and we're coming out and we're big and we're moving and we're doing our choreography, and we got the mics and we're in the rehearsal hall. And the keyboard player was like, "Is this you all the time?" He was like, "That you all bring, this show is going to be crazy." And that's just us. We are big energy. It doesn't help that we're all like over 6 feet tall with heels.
Yes.
So you got big mouths, you got big voices, you got big height on stage, and then we're just, somebody said something and it wasn't offensive to me. I took it and I ran with it. I thought it was a beautiful thing. They were like, "All of you are just some beautiful Amazon women," So
pretty much always have been. Maxie's tall too. A lot of people didn't know. Yep.
Maxie's
and
tall
Keena
too.
Was too. Mimi was the only one that was, and Mimi is what, 5'7", so she wasn't short.
5'8", so she puts some heels on. She's 5'10", 5'11". Yeah. So Yeah, so we really perform. When we leave the stage, our managers are on the side of the stage, like holding our hands because the energy is such a rush. You know, I don't know of anybody within the last, I guess I would say, year and a half, especially just this past summer with this tour that we've done, this summer tour. Everybody leaves like, you all have the on stage, you know, and Nikki and I have been together long enough where she can kind of give me the eye and I know, okay, it's time for me to take over, you know, and
Yeah.
we finally gotten Arin into that jail. She feels it now, you know, so we give you a show. We're very, we're a vibe, you know, you get church, you get sultry, you know, you just get a plethora of things when it comes to Brownstone show. Yeah.
No, but a lot of, from Keith Sweat to SWV, there's a lot of, they're headlining almost weekly. And so is there a balance then to be able to say, okay, we want to be on the torn circuit then, and then put a lot in that? Or are you guys in that sense of, we'll pick a few shows and not go 100% all in it?
No, here's the beautiful thing about what's happened with Brownstone is like divine order. We always say God is in control, right? We're not making any of these decisions. We're just kind of, it's more about, okay, this is what's been offered to us. Let's figure out how to make it work. But I do think that now, and we're grown women. So we have, my parents are in heaven, but Teisha and Arin both have, elderly parents, right? Children, I'm a grandmother. So those are all things that you figure out. But the beautiful, amazing thing about our team, which, like I say, everything is just in divine order. When you have angels like Maxee and our parents and people really cheering for us from heaven, it's like you can't miss, right? I say, so we absolutely plan to tour, and we want to make sure that we give. This show that we're doing now is the show that we're doing at the level of Brownstone, rebuilding, rebranding, refreshing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once we have the resources, right, and the opportunities, which we are preparing for. They say what opportunity and preparation meet. Opportunities we've been preparing for. Oh, we're definitely planning to be on tour with tutors and nannies and caregivers for our parents.
Yeah. And you said that and you meant it.
With my whole heart. Because see, everything we've been saying just been happening. Last night I said we need to be number one. Look up today, we number one. Yeah. We need Sam Smith or Mary or we need a big tour. Beyonce. Oh, excuse me. I heard that Beyonce's going on tour, and I think she needs Brownstone to open up.
I mean, I've been celebrating women in music this past couple of months because when I started off, I was just having all the from Joe to C, I was just having all the male groups, and now all of a sudden I just started to interview females, and Nikki Howard, when I interviewed her, I asked her what's the difference between being a female in the music industry compared to being a male, and she was saying, look, how much the challenges that the females had and have, but still have to put on a good show. But and I think something for us as fans, we didn't really see that. We don't really notice that. We just saw videos, see you guys on tour, and don't think any difference. But from your own experience being a female in the industry, how challenging is it compared to your male counterparts?
Well, let's say this before, because I'm letting her thoughts are brewing. Thank God that we have such a wonderful hands-on management team in Marvelous Entertainment. So we have Martin McIntyre and Loretta McIntyre, and they act as a huge buffer, if you will, in between what could easily go wrong. We, come up against some instances where, and I don't know if it was because, oh, that's just Brownstone, or if it was because, we're three women, where we were challenged during, one of our sound checks. Wasn't a good feeling, wasn't a comfortable feeling. But, I don't know if it was because he was a male, he got a little bit more extra time and we got pushed to the side or what. I don't know, but
because he didn't look like Adele, so it had to be that he was a man. No.
Yeah, I don't know, but there are instances, and I would just say, if I had to go back to a conversation that we had in the studio a few weeks ago, just as a woman in the world, yes, industry, but just in the world, this is one of the things that we were, trying to shed light on. We have to be cautious of how we move. What we say, how we say, it is always picked apart. A man can stand on a platform or get on his soapbox and talk from, here until the time gets better. And they'll probably give him just a couple of check marks. Let a woman do it, and she'll have check marks from the top of her speech to the ending. So yes, in this industry, we have to be aware and conscious. We would love to just open up our mouths and say some things and speak on things that are unfair. However, we have to do it, or I should say, we have to choose our battles wisely. Yeah, it's unfortunate, because what was women's lib for? I don't know, but
yeah, it's the system is built on a white male dominated structure, power structure, so, and then after that, white women, Jewish women, Italian, non-Black, I'll say, okay, because I haven't done the statistics and I don't want nobody to quote me, but non-Black. And then you have this structure where men get a certain amount of credit after, the non-Black. When we start talking about Black, we start talking about Black men having lots more opportunities, right, in entertainment, music, every area. And then there's the LGBTQIA community that has all these rights and, opportunities, right? And Black women who are the backbone, for lack of a better word, for so many, not just households, but corporations. We are caregivers, as we mentioned earlier, for our parents. And it trickles down into every area of entertainment and media. I'd always been told to shut up and sing. I'd always been, I remember, back in the 90s, I was labeled as difficult because I asked questions. I was labeled as difficult because, I didn't allow things that I felt were not fair, to go without at least acknowledging that. And to this day, I think people in this industry have labeled me as difficult because I am one who you can't piss on and tell me that it's raining. I'm 52 years old. I'm somebody's grandma. I'm a whole woman, and I've been in this industry and I've paid a lot of dues, and I've had a lot of really awful, terrible things happen in my life and career. And I've remained with the ability to still be optimistic and positive about creating art and opportunity. And I use those lessons as opportunities to teach future generations, because I think the mistake is that we get really caught up in where things are now, how things have been for us in the past. And we forget that, it's like the person who is leaning into their pain and their trauma, right? Something that happened to you as a child is a horrible, awful, god-awful, traumatic event. But you can't allow that trauma to continue a generational curse in your family and in your life. And I think that what I've learned in the process of making this new album, and before even making the album, deciding, to do music again, I've had such a love-hate relationship with music because of the inequities and the lack of real, tangible, viable resources to make a living from this. When you look and you see Tory Lanez did a record with your voice on it and he got 800 million or close to 800 million spins on it, and you still have yet to see, a check for your voice being on something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a blow, right? But you can either take that blow and decide to quit, or take that blow and, like Teisha said about choosing your battles, choose to fight Goliath, with a mist, right? Or you can figure out how to put that trauma, that pain, those lessons into art, how to advocate for other people, how to position other people to win, and it is always going to be a fight. We as Black people are fighting in this country for the very basic respect. So a Black person in entertainment is no different than a Black person who works at Kroger or automotive company. We're still seen as second and third class citizens in America, no matter how much we contribute to the wealth in America. Michael Jackson was the biggest entertainer in the world, and he complained about it. Prince was the biggest entertainer in the world, and he complained about it. So we're not crazy, but some of us have had a hard time getting past the hurt and the trauma that this industry has caused artists. And then there are those of us, like the women in Brownstone, who are determined to use these obstacles as stepping stones and really push forward initiatives that allow future generations to do better and to have more equality. And I hope that these record labels and these record companies out here understand the fight isn't going to stop. We are not giving up. The fight is not going to stop. So it's time for us to have a real dialogue about how to make it more equitable and fair for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautifully said. And I think that's part of what we want future artists, both male and female, to be able to appreciate and understand. And before we started, I was telling Arin and Teisha that I'm a mental health therapist, and although I specialize mainly with under 21s, because part of what I try to do is to make sure that the kids don't carry those traumas into adulthood and stuff. But I did see, Nikki, that you have in the past posted quite a bit about mental health and well-being, and how much of that have you has that been helpful, and how are people supporting on that?
I'm blown away. Shout out to Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. Hit them with one, Teach, real quick. I'm blown away by the outpouring of love and support and encouragement that I've received throughout my career, right? You kind of get caught up. That's why I was joking about the R&B Divas thing. It's a beautiful show. So I do hope that you have a chance to see it in London. If not, you will see the future iterations that we are quietly working on.
Okay.
You heard it here first. But it's going to be a whole different thing. Anyway, yes, mental health to me is where it begins and ends, right? Because the decisions that we make in our lives are based on where we are in our minds, right? And our spirits, right? Because they kind of work together, spirituality, having a center, whether it is Jesus Christ, whether it is Buddha, whatever it is, meditating, finding a place where spiritually you're able to just calm yourself and work through the noise is what I think is the beginning of, that is what gives you the willingness to seek out mental wellness. And I think we have just become a world where mental health and mental wellness is a real conversation now, because everything was, they gonna think you crazy, don't you? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't talk about it. And as artists, you had to be pulled up all the time. And when you lose an artist like Whitney Houston to something as trivial as self-medicating because she was when you think about, and I'm not pointing the finger and I'm not blaming it, people get real funny and real touchy and real crazy when I say this, but I got to tell the truth. And if you the devil, shame on you. But most artists are just crying out for self-care. Most artists are just crying out for a moment to have mental wellness, to be able to be normal and a human being. So I pride myself in not being pulled up and perfect all the time. I pride myself in sharing those moments where I've created a lump in the side of my head from T&J, from grinding my teeth and holding it in. It is unhealthy. It is unhealthy mentally, spiritually, physically. We are teaching our children really toxic habits, toxic masculinity. Our boys can't cry. You know what I mean? It's just so much that as a community, we were taught we needed to be and we needed to do in order to be upstanding citizens, right? Now we're discovering that so much of what we learned back in the day is some bullshit. Yeah. So we really are at a place where we can be transparent. And I think transparency and authenticity is what speaks to the heart. And if it speaks to the heart, it's going to be around forever, right? Even long after we're gone. So mental wellness is a very big priority in my life.
Yeah, as I'm one of the very few Black male therapists, and so you can imagine when you're standing in front of young people, and 95% of our referrals are from white girls who, when they struggle, it's as a family. Yep, let's go see a therapist. Within the Black community, it is very much of a no. We go to church, and we don't share our problems in public. So part of what I was doing with this was to get people to share about how they've struggled in the industry, but the positive side, but also to be able to use this as a platform to let other Black families to know that, look, it is something that it happens, and therapy isn't a white thing. It's a human being thing. And being able to not to just, you don't need to talk to your friend or the pastor, talking to a professional who's not going to judge, who's going to be able to help you dissect. And so that's part of what I always try and do towards the end of my interviews, is just to get well-known celebrities to share about, look, I've had a therapist and I understand it. And
one of the best things, not to cut you off, but that was one of the best I could have ever done. I went through a very traumatic relationship with my daughter's father, and I was depressed while in the relationship, and then during the pregnancy, and then so I was already depressed, and then after the baby, postpartum set in. So I had a double-edged sword, and I was in a very, very, very dark place. And one of the best things I could have ever done was to see a therapist. And I did. And just being able to share, I even said, here recently, I was talking to someone. I was like, I'm going to get through the rest of this year, but it's time for me to get back and see my doctor and have me some one-on-one sessions, because I just need someone that can kind of help me put it all together, So it was one of the best things I could have ever done. And I went to lunch with two young ladies last week. And the young lady just she miscarried in May. And we were talking, and we were just, just sharing, as women can sometimes do. And I was just talking about, how, when I had my baby, how I was going through postpartum, and I went and saw a therapist, and it was like, that's when she connected to the conversation. And she said, "You did?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "I've been debating." And then she shared with me that she just lost her baby in May. She delivered her baby full term.
Oh, still.
And, she was, and just the look on her face, I told her, I said, if I can encourage you, if you take anything away from this lunch, I was like, I really would encourage you to go and talk to someone, because I could just see, I knew that there was something there while we were having lunch. We were laughing and kind of sharing, but she just seemed like she was just kind of in this sunken place. And when she shared that, it all made sense then. And I even followed up with her on Monday. And I told her, I was like, I was like, I was like, no pressure. I said, but I really want you to think about seeing someone, because that is definitely traumatic. And she's a young girl. She's only about 34, I believe. So, yeah.
Oh my God,
so,
I can't even imagine.
Therapy. I do. I encourage it. Yeah.
It's interesting. Algebra Blissett, I had a conversation with her, and she was like, the elders would tell you to take it to church or talk to somebody. She's like, you need doctors. You need people with medicine. And the other part that I always, I started working out in the beginning of my career to lose weight, right? I want to be skinny. I want to fit in the right clothes. I want to wear the fashions. Then I started to realize that there's something called moving meditation. right? And I realized how much better I felt after working out. I felt like I'd accomplished something. It wasn't about, you know, what I looked like. It was about having a minute to put on my either praise and worship or meditation music or whatever, and just unplug and really take care of myself, right? And that has become the thing that I think has helped sustain me through a lot of trauma and a lot of loss. Just really putting it into exerting myself in the most healthy, in the way that is giving me the healthiest result, right?
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate both of you being open and kind, because as I said, I do always want when you know, those who are watching to see and think that therapy isn't a white thing. It's you know,
It's a
if
human
you,
thing.
it is,
Like
it
you
is
take
a
care of your body, you have to take care of your mind, mental wellness, physical wellness. It all goes together.
Yeah,
It's
and globally, there, I think there's been this sense of, as Black people, we have to be strong. We don't show weakness, and unfortunately, what happens is that our young kids are the least likely to get support, but then our adults are more likely to get sectioned or in adult and adult mental health, because as kids they weren't taught to talk and to share, so they carry this up and they become adults and it just becomes too much, and then they're facing depression and facing suicide and things, and they haven't learned how to handle it. So that's why I'm just, hopefully we're teaching our kids differently. You know, if our sons are crying, it's like, okay, that's, you know, just let them cry and express themselves, and not to tell them, you know, you need to be a man, you need to
Man up. Yeah, right. It's like, what is that?
Yeah.
Oh, don't be a human being. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Be a robot.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate, you know, I always end my interviews by asking my guests that if, and I'll start with Teisha, if you were stuck in an elevator and you had, it's going to be 2 hours or 3 hours, and they said, look, we've got a movie for you to watch. What's your all-time favorite movie that you're like, yeah, I'd want to watch this?
Oh my God, I'm stuck in a movie and I am watching What's Love Got to Do with It? Angela Bassett, Tina.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Yes. That was, I love that movie. Yeah.
I love that movie. Yes.
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 Okay.
Just to perform, she was amazing. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yes. And you know, these are things that I didn't realize, the story and all the pain and stuff we had to see in there. That's okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Nikki, what about you? What's your
Mine
go-to?
is a biopic as well. It would be Lady Sings the Blues with Diana Ross and Billy D. Williams, hands down.
Okay.
That's it. You know,
Okay.
I'm about to go for a walk. When I come back, I don't want to find you here. She was all strung out.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, and it's good, and I think it, in a way, it's I mean, being in the industry, you're seeing these powerful Black ladies, and it's amazing how not only Black Panther, Wakanda Forever is going to heavily lean on strong Black women, but Viola Davis has this film, The Woman King.
What? The Woman King? Are you kidding me? I went to a pre-screening and I walked out of there like, I can do anything.
But that's important, and that's part of what I said, is that we have underappreciated, underestimated what it was like being a Black female in America, in this world, because there's sense of, you know, for us as a male, it's easy to always depend on my mom and rely on my wife to you know, not even thinking that, yep, she's always got it, because they always have it, but not realizing what's it like, you know, that working twice as hard for less of the not just the reward but the praise and stuff. I mean, and almost to be, because what I notice, you know, when I tell people that I notice, when I used to listen to the music in the 70s and 80s, it was about the vocals. It was not about their parents. It was just about, wow, you could sing and stuff. We got into the 90s and it was about, okay, we need to, if we're going to be a female, we need to showcase your image, and that becomes, we don't care if you can sing, but we need to sell the image. And so how does that feel like? Because males were still able to continue, didn't matter what you weighed, you could still have a personality and they'll promote you. But for females, it's like, no, we can't sell that. And so it's harder to, but we don't, you know, as I said, as a consumer, not being in the inside, we don't know what it's like. We just buy what they're selling us. And so Yeah, so as I say, I'm really excited that you guys have, after 25 years, said, you know, we're going to come back, we're going to give you something new, and we're going to be document our stuff, have ownership and stuff. And so hopefully for the younger women coming through, they can see we can do it ourselves. We don't necessarily need to go to Universal, Sony, or Warner Bros. And
We do not. We are campaigning for a Grammy nomination for 2 songs. One is for a special merit award for Best Song for Social Change, and another one is All I Want, which is for Best Traditional R&B Vocal Performance and Best Song for Visual Media. And we did not have to have a major company to do that.
Wow.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. Oh, sorry. My final question is always,
Yeah.
Teisha, what's your favorite song by any artist?
That is so unfair.
Everybody has.
God, when people do that. Okay. So then I would have to say the first song that I ever sang, which was The Greatest Love of All. It would have to be Whitney Houston.
Okay.
So this is going to be a little off kilter, because my favorite song is Summer Madness by Kool and the Gang.
Ah.
Hands down. Like when that song comes on, no matter what I'm doing,
No matter what she's
like, are you serious?
No matter what she's doing.
Oh, are you serious?
I'm in a zone.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is just something about that song. I just love it. And I think it's attached to really good memory. I feel like I was riding down Jefferson with my mom with the windows down. You know what I mean? In the back seat. And she was playing that record. And I was just like, and it was the long version with do. And it just takes me to a place. That's it.
Oh, wow. No, because mine is The Lady in My Life by Michael Jackson.
Ooh, that's a 5 record. That's a 5 record.
Yeah. And I probably listen to it once a year. So I don't, it's so important, and I don't listen to it anyhow.
Yes.
It's like a fine bottle of wine. You just crack that mug open on a special occasion. Like, wow.
It is. And when I ask this question, I always see how many people still have that song. So Donnell Jones.
That's a song, man. Woo.
Yeah, and then it's probably one of the times, as I said, I was an all-time Michael fan, but it was one of the songs I wish he had done more of, and stuff. And he really was vulnerable vocally in that and stuff.
Yeah.
So
it was just a good time. Like, it was just, it's like I listened to stuff that my dad had still on 2-inch. It was just different. Music was. And that, I think, is what is missing from the earth right now. I think
the Marvin
authenticity and that, like everything in that record just went to all these records we're talking about. It was the vocal, it was the performance, and then there was just moments where the music just lived, right?
Like the music just would suck you in, and you just were there, like, you got horns and you got strings.
Yes, strings and orchestra.
Well, so now you know why I like Half of You, because it felt real. It didn't. It was stripped down. It wasn't so okay. Yeah, we
just
get
the
this
piano
vocal.
And vocals. Yeah,
and I always wonder, why do we need to have a perfect record? Like, okay, we got this part, we tweaked that part, and why not have those types of performances? I listen to a lot of Hillsong out of Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And they record all their stuff live, and so that's why you can appreciate it. Or when you listen to, sometimes Commission or Fred Hammond, it's a lot of live recordings, and so you appreciate it and you feel it, and you can be right there. When I spoke with El DeBarge, I said to him, because I saw one of his performances where he was singing. He was singing one of his songs. I can't even remember what his name was. One of his All This Love. But he changed it as if he was singing this in a church, and he sang it as if, Lord, I'm giving you all my love. And I said, and he said that right then he felt as if he was standing before the Lord, and he would just sing to him. And I said, that's why we could connect to that. And that's why we love live music. But I think sometimes the show takes away from the music and takes away from the performance. And I told him that one of the things that when I read the book of Samuel and King David was singing, playing the harp for Saul, he delivered him from a spiritual infirmity. And so music was called for deliverance. But we forget that and how important it is for people to understand that the gifts that you guys have been given is for healing and deliverance. But we get all technical and it sort of kind strips away and stuff. So that's why I said I love Half of You, because it felt raw, it felt relaxed. It just felt like this is our vocals, this is the piano, and we're singing, and we could, we don't need the fluff and all that stuff that takes away the power. I'm sorry.
Woo! You said music is healing, and it is. It's amazing. We've been obedient and just doing what God puts in front of us, and it's amazing how, in spite of tremendous obstacles, we're in this space of like really moving in the direction of incredible things with music, and it's because of obedience and understanding that it is just about the music.
Yeah. So hopefully, when you do perform, hopefully you do a half.
We gotta add half of you. We said we gotta add half of you, and we gotta add sometimes dancing. We listen when we come to London, because after they see this interview, they're gonna be like, we need them to come to London, and we need them to do. Is the Hippodrome? Is the Hippodrome still a thing in London?
No. Those there. It's gone. Yeah,
okay.
It's the O2
Jazz
and
Cafe.
it's the Hammersmith Pub. Jazz Cafe is still around, yes, and Hammersmith Pub. But yeah, as I said, I don't know. It's just stripping it down, and you just be amazed how much, because you guys have the vocals, so you don't need the production and the loud music to sort of steal the show. That's the powerful thing.
Maxee wanted Maxee
acoustic, a vibe.
It just needs to be acoustic guitar.
We had even talked about an acoustic version of some of our records, so you might have put that back in the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I definitely, guys, I appreciate it. It's been great. It's been I've been Laura has been, I've been working with trying to get this for almost 8 months. So
oh my gosh, look at that. See, Divine again. Imagine you getting this 8 months ago, and before we became a #1 R&B Amazon record and a number 24 Amazon record on the pop charts. See how God works it out? That's the divine order that we've been having. Divine order. I need you to tell me, is it Namdi?
Namdi.
Namdi. Okay, Namdi.
Namdi. Yeah. Yes. When is the video going to come out? Because it'd be good to be able to see how you guys...
So here's a little tidbit on the video. We've been actually going back and forth with ideas, and we are really excited about a feature. So we're going to go on out there and put it out there. Remy Ma, Burna Boy, Holla at Your Girl, something. You know what I mean? So we want to do a feature, and we would like to include whoever's on that feature in the video. But if we don't get it in time, I would say a video in the coming weeks, maybe by November at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it'd be good to, because as I said, I'm listening to the track and I'm like, wow, but I can't, you can't.
Video, listen, the video always helps sell the record. I'm sorry, videos always help with the record, period. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And especially when we haven't seen you guys in such a long time, seeing after 7, you would see how they've and the videos, you don't need Hype Williams anymore, that's $1 million videos.
Right. All you need is a really talented young guy with a camera, but we want to be able to tell a really strong story and deliver.
Yes. Teisha, you did talk about re-releasing and re-recording. Was that ever part of the whole plan, sort of the greatest hits reimagined or re-sung or retold of Brownstone?
So that's always been a part of Nikki's vision too. She's like, we need to take some of these all these hot songs we got, and we need to, So yes, that's always been something that we've talked about. Everything happens for a reason. We went down this road many a days and many a nights, hoping that it could have been, Nikki, Teisha, and Maxee. I didn't have the honor to release something with my sister, but
well, not so fast, because she got
Oh.
some stuff in the vault that nobody's heard. So
well,
it
maybe
ain't the same, but she'll be on the album.
Yeah. So, but that was definitely something that we talked about, always, kind of pulling some of that stuff that was really, really good and just got kind of looked over, from Brownstone, and putting it out, and not necessarily over tweaking it, but just tweaking it a little bit more for the new ear, if you will.
Yeah.
Just to make it hot, because they got hits, Browns. It's some hits.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely something we could do. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't mind doing covers. I think covers are great. But if we're going to cover anything, I want to cover some Brownstone.
Yeah, you always said that.
No,
always, yeah.
But that's key, because I when I interviewed and I talked to a lot of groups, and they said, yeah, we want to do this cover. And I'm saying, well, what about your own songs, especially the ones you wrote? Now at least you own the masters of it. Now at least you own you're generating the revenue. Instead of singing somebody else's song, what about the songs you already wrote? And it's like, oh yeah, we didn't think about that, because Taylor Swift is re-recording her whole catalog.
Re-recording her whole album, yeah.
Right. Why not?
Yeah. And it's the sound is different. So you've got a different producer, so you don't need to be exactly what it was back then. It can be updated. It can be stripped down. It can be in a different key and stuff. But it's still the fact that you own your own songs with him. Because when you're on tour, you're singing the same songs, and everyone's loves those songs.
Yeah, so nostalgia.
So you're not singing them exactly how you sang it 25, 30 years ago. So so why not? Why, if you're re-recording them, you don't need to record them how it was then. You recorded how you sound now, because that's what we listen to, and that's what we appreciate. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully
we have technically, we have over half of it done on the live album, because we're actually performing our live show, which has been built out, for a live recording as well. So we definitely want to do a live sort of acoustic. We perform best live.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. As I said,
with a band,
I definitely can't wait for that. But I'm excited that you guys are back. You've always been, one of our favorite groups, and I've been good friends with Lily, but even but the fact that they're constantly on the road and touring, I'm thinking, what about Brownstone? So it's good that you guys have come out with something new, and are going to be hitting the stage, because you were always celebrated as really powerful vocalists, and so I definitely look forward.
We worked our tail off from April up until this is our first real break, actually, since April.
We've been on the road. We just actually did a show with SWV in Detroit.
We did.
The Franklin SWV and Jagged Edge.
Yes. So we have a show next weekend in Cleveland, Ohio, and then a couple weeks down, and then we'll be back up again. So we worked.
Every month, every week in the month.
At 5 o'clock in the evening and run into an airport. Like,
okay. But as we finish, outside of Brownstone, is there anything people can look to? Do you have stuff on the side, or do you plays or things, or is it just work in Brownstone?
So I am currently directing a production, a really big production here in Detroit. It's called Hell is Real. It's going to be open for 2 nights, the 29th, 30th. And I love it because one of the actors just asked me the other day, who I actually kind of mentored for some years. He was like, please tell me you're coming back to the stage. And I'm like, yeah, but when I come back to the stage, I'm coming back in my own. So I produced the show a few years ago, kind of doing some revamping to it now, because my goal is to put it back up on its feet. This 2023, but I am having a ball with directing and stretching these actors and these actresses, and they trust me because they watch me on stage. So they appreciate my gift, thank God, because I am working them quite hard. But that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm a full-time mom and I work full-time, and God is just giving me strength, even though I'm getting ready to use the word no at the beginning of the year, because I
can't even do
I need some self-care. I need some self-care. So
Wow.
Yeah.
And Nikki?
Always advocating for artists. In fact, I will be with Nikema Williams, Congresswoman Nikema Williams, and the Grammy organization as a district advocate. We are talking to our lawmakers about all the amazing things that they can do to help us, you know, Mr. Warnock and all of them folks here in Georgia who can help advocate for better rights and more equality, you know, for artists and creatives. Always advocating for creativity and art. Working, you know, on this album has inspired some really incredible things in this brain of mine. I have just decided that I'm going to focus on moving this Brownstone ball down the court, because it is, you know, there are a ton of things I've done and will continue to do, but the thing that I think the ancestors and the supporters and the fans are most interested in for me right now is what we're doing, which is Brownstone. And I think, you know, naturally, like this documentary series that we're doing and Teisha's projects, and Arin has, she's not here, but I will say Arin and her sister were nominated for a Grammy last year. The Magic Joneses, they have a children's nursery album, which is amazing. They just came back from the Brooklyn Children's Museum working on that. And I think that Brownstone is that. It is a platform. Back to your original question, do we expect to get rich off of streaming? We still got to figure out what that means. But having the opportunity to brand ourselves in the different things that we're working on, Brownstone has always been that. And I say this, people have a lot to say about the ever evolving, ever changing, you know, members in the group. But if this was an NFL team or a football team, if this was the Lions, the Tigers, or the Bears, right? Your favorite players, absolutely. Your Super Bowl years, absolutely. But they give new players a chance to run the ball. And that's kind of where I am, you know, definitely assuming the role of quarterback because I've been here for a while, but super excited to offer this platform, not just for Teisha and Arin, but for all the people who enjoy not just R&B and 90s and oldies, but the stuff that's happening out here in music now and how we can fuse those two worlds and not think that we are better than, but figure out a way to really just continue to evolve musically. So my focus is in music.
I thought you had a podcast as well, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, that too. The background gave it away. So, so I also have a podcast, Nights with Nikki podcast, which, you know, I'm really excited to say I'll be talking to Mickey Howard and I'll be talking to Melba Moore and I'll be talking to Jaguar Ride and there's a bunch of dope, you know, the R&B Divas. I had a great conversation with Angie Stone and Kiki Wyatt. So it's always back to music though. You know what I mean? It's no secret. Like, you know, I have a lot of irons in the fire. I have a lot of dragons I'm literally slaying at this moment. But what has been a place of solitude and solace for me has been getting back into this music, which I did not expect. And it's happening that way. So even with the podcast, you know, we're going to focus more on, and that music is a universal language, and music is something that is easy, I think, to offer healing through, right? We get not long-winded as, right? We get caught up in our words a lot and speaking a lot, but I'm going to see what it feels like to get more focused in my art and seeing the woman king. And honestly, my grandson, who went to his first show a few months ago and the second show a few weeks ago, whatever, and him asking about my career and asking about what it was like to be with Michael Jackson and what does it mean to be a singer and a performer is confirmation that the legacy in my life is always going to be connected to Brownstone. So I have to do everything in my power to make sure that we are protecting that legacy and continue to build on that. And everything else has been the result of the introduction from Brownstone. So I have to nurture and protect and expound on that.
Yeah. Well, with that, guys, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the yeah. It's been great. It's been a privilege to just not just to hear the journey, but to see where you guys are now, and it's been inspiring. I think you've just beaten Mila from 702's record of to almost 3 hours. So
oh my gosh, so much. You know what it is? It's just we have so much to say because we've been around.
Okay.
Got a lot to say. Hopefully we keep your audience's attention.
Yeah, no. It you know, as a therapist, you're trained to listen, and so I think I was speaking to Cassandra Lucas of Changing Face, and she said, "How long have you been?" But it's and I don't know. Did it seem like you'd been here for 2.5, almost 3 hours?
It didn't actually. I'm like, oh
No.
Lord, okay.
No.
Yeah. And
yeah, low key gave us a therapy session. I love
it. No, yeah, I love to listen. I got into therapy. I actually studied. I went to college in Wisconsin. I actually lived in Selma, Alabama.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Selma.
Oh, wow.
Mayor Smithman was still the mayor when I was there in '92. He's the guy who didn't want them to. He stopped the march when Martin Luther King went to the Selma to Montgomery. The same mayor was there when I was there in '92,
Wow.
and so yeah. But yeah, well, I always loved to talk to women because they, unlike men who are always talking about football and sports, women were real about relationships, and I just love to listen and hear. So I changed careers, became a therapist, and I just love sitting down and listening and hearing and been using that to help shape other people and stuff. So I appreciate the time. I appreciate what you
Thank you for letting us share. This was really great because it felt like you were listening. We felt heard.
yes, definitely. And yeah, so I mean, and I have to appreciate Loretta because she's been, you know, she's been patient, and every time she says, "Yeah, I'm seeing Brownstone next month, and I'm seeing him next week. I'm seeing him in Philly and Detroit," and so, and then she just got me yesterday. Said, "Okay, 8 o'clock on Tuesday." And I don't think she knows it's 3 o'clock in the morning here, but I just said, yeah, sure, no problem.
Thank you. That's right. We did not know that, and you should have told us because we would have definitely given you the grace.
No, because you guys, she said, you know, you got work and timing, so I said, okay, that's fine. You know, I'll be fine, because one of the things is you know, part of the joy of being in the UK is that when my kids are in bed, my wife's gonna sleep, then I normally do the show. It's normally 5 p.m. Eastern, so it's about 10 o'clock my time. But at this time, it's a little bit different. It's fine. Yes.
Well, we didn't feel the tad bit rush, so thank you.
Because my toddler is on 10, and I got to get her in bed.
Yeah, right. Sorry about that. Yeah, but I appreciate everything, and I'll get in touch with Laura when we'll probably open it next week or so. I'll be able to edit it and release it and stuff like that. So appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you, London. Thank you, UK. Thank you for the love and the support of Brownstone. And thank you, Halftime.
Thank you very much. Okay, guys, I appreciate it. But I'll be in touch. And yeah, I can't wait to see you guys when you hit the stage. And when the video's out, I'll be sure to be able to, you know, to let our fans know and watch and support.
Perfect. Thank you. Love you, Teish. Kiss my baby. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you for being part of Halftime Chats. This new update is really about our membership, and I'm really excited to be able to fully launch the membership page. There will be things like full interviews from day one. As soon as the interview drops, you get access to it without any ads on it. There'll be some exclusive member-only videos that will just be some behind-the-scenes stuff and some other things that will never be broadcast. For some members, you can be able to get actually 2 interviews, because I do have a backlog of almost 7 or 8 interviews that I don't even know when I'm going to be able to broadcast them. So you're able to get at least some of those up front, and some just behind the scenes stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that I have never been able to talk about or release. For anyone else, you know what, the videos would still be the same over a week or a week and a half or 2 weeks, depending on how long it is. So everything stays the same. The polls stay the same. The community chats, the community stuff stays the same. But I think with the membership stuff, I'm able to add a little bit more and invest a lot more time and energy in really supporting the members. So I do hope you come on that ride with me. I appreciate the support, and this will just help me continue to invest in taking things to the next level. Take care.
I begin to